Hello everyone and welcome back to the Silicon Nubian YouTube channel where we're all about things tech. Had a great time doing this and love bringing this to you. This is our first build of 2020, what I like to dub as the Anti-Bling Anti-RGB build. Let's look quickly at the components that are going to go into it and we'll get started. The CPU is the AMD Ryzen 1600AF. Not to be confused with the 1600AE, as the 1600AE is based on the original Ryzen 1000 series processor using the Zen architecture, while the 1600AF is actually a Ryzen 2000, more specifically a 2600, dressed up as a 1600, and it has more in common because it uses the Zen Plus architecture as well as a 12 nanometer design. The motherboard will be the Asrock B450 Pro 4-F Micro ATX. Yes, this is a Micro ATX build. Micro ATX just doesn't get enough loving these days, it seems. The SSD will be a 512 gig XPG GAMMIX S11 Pro NVMe drive. Memory comes in the form of 2 sticks of 8 gigs, XPG Z1 DDR4 3600 MHz. That's PC4 28800. The video card, I got it on the used market, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. It is the Powercolor X570 Red Devil. CPU cooler, as I rarely if ever use stock coolers, is the DEEPCOOL GAMMAXX 400. Great cooler for 6 or even 8 core CPUs, and you don't have to take off the retention bracket, the original retention bracket from AMD, as this clips right into it. The case is a Thermaltake H17, no side window, thank you very much. This is an anti-bling build, and it is a Micro ATX case, very understated looking, but I like the design. The power supply will be an EVGA 650 G3 modular power supply, which I had from my last build. Power supply is far less than a year old, so I used it again. Fantastic power supply. And the Thermaltake H17 does come with a 120 millimeter exhaust fan at the rear of the case. I have opted to add 2 more fans. I will keep that one in there. I put a 140 millimeter Fantex fan at the front for air intake, fresh air intake, and another 120 millimeter Fantex fan at the top of the case for additional exhaust. Great to have you along. Let's get started. Hope you enjoy. Remember to subscribe, leave comments. Love to have you here. Let's get the show on the road. What's up, YouTube? I'm at the point now in the build where the motherboard has been mounted. Everything's looking good. Now I got to choose fans. Now I've opted to use the included Thermaltake case fan. It does come with one. I can show you if you can see it. Sorry about the camera angles. I'm not a professional. It comes with one Thermaltake 120mm exhaust fan in the back. For the time being, I'm going to keep it as that. Given that this system is the anti-RGB, anti-flash system, but beautifully built, I hope. I have an option on what fans to put in. They don't all have to match. So the front allows 144mm. I have a very good Fantex 144mm fan that I'll probably put at the front for air intake. And I have, oh gosh, a number of fans, pretty good quality, that I can choose to put otherwhere. I have a nice Cooler Master. These have all been in other systems. Some of them have never even been used, to be honest with you. I have a Cooler Master. I know this one to be very quiet. I want to put a top exhaust as well. I have another Fractal Design fan, an R3. Pretty good fan right there. I have another Fantex, that 120mm that I can put at the top. And I have a DEEPCOOL, another DEEPCOOL fan. I'm not sure if this is LED, but it's a pretty quiet fan as well, 120mm. And I have one which I will not be using, which is this old dirty Zalman fan, which is very old, and look at the connector, folks. It's Molex. So that one's going in the trash. have a few choices. I'm going to get that done and we'll continue with the video. I just wanted to point out that what I love about this build, which is kind of weird, is because I have a beautiful looking cooler inside. Nice DEEPCOOL GAMMIX 400 white, but you won't be able to see it. But it's okay, because that's what this build is about. Anti-RGB, anti-flash. Just a very nicely, well stated case. Nice, comfortable build. Let's continue. What's up again? Getting close to the end of the build, and sorry if my lighting's a little bit off and the audio as well. Again, filming this on my cell phone in spotlight, so just try to bring the best to you. Even though this build, you can't see it from the outside, it's not something that is visible, you can't see the internal components, you still have to do everything you have to do as much as you can for the sake of airflow and for, of course, cosmetics, even though you can't see them. So we try to keep things under control here in the back. Thankfully, this case, the H17, has quite a large basement here. So putting in the cables, stuffing the rest under there is no problem. We, of course, use the tie downs that are there, some zip ties, and of course, I'll cut the end of these zip ties to clean it up a little bit more, just to make the back side of the case extremely clean. Now, let's take a look at how it looks on the front. Our video card's been installed. The back is looking pretty clean right now. I got this one cable here. I should have tied it, but it's not really going to bother me that much. It's for the fans. I did use a 2-to-1 fan joiner. That will help me in terms of, particularly for motherboards where you don't have a lot of fan headers. This board does have enough, but it helps to cut down a lot on the too busy look, too many cables. So let's look at the front. Take a quick look inside. It's fairly clean. Not as clean as I would like it per se, but pretty clean. We still have some cables that you can see. I can stuff these under here. Again, I'm making a mess of it, but even though you're not going to be able to see any of these cables from the outside of the case, I still want to have a pretty clean look. It helps with airflow. Got the 140 mil here. Some may say right away, oh Ben, hey, that's not enough airflow. Well, let me tell you something. As it goes along, there are changes. Nothing is written in stone. I put a nice exhaust fan at the top. Let's see if you can see that right there. Okay. What I like about this case too, if you look underneath the power supply, there is a removable dust filter. Not the best. It's one you have to bend, but it's there. So for the price, pretty good. I have a little opening. We can see the EVGA 650 G3 logo, which point is moot because you're not going to be able to see it at all. All in all, it's a pretty tight build. The cables up here, I tied them off. Let me just cut the zip tie. I tied them off because they can't be hidden, but they are hidden because you won't be able to see the case. And of course I have another dust filter at top, which is more useful if you're going to use the top as an intake. I'm using it as an exhaust. And by the way, the top can fit 140 millimeter fans, which I would have preferred to have used. That being said, I didn't have one on hand at the moment. Just one 140 for the intake and two 120s for exhaust. As well, the case can fit a pretty sizable radiator. I think theoretically 3x140, but I don't think that's gonna actually fit there. Probably a 2x120 would be a lot more comfortable, as the last set of fan would have to go and the radiator would have to extend into the basement for the power supply. Very clean look. Like it a lot so far. And we do have mounting here for the SSDs, have the rubber grommets. We can also mount hard drives and whatnot. But what I've done is this is an SSD based system, but as you can see inside the little bit of red there, that's the SSD that I'm using. I'm using an M.2 NVMe drive, XPG 500 gigs. So next step is to power up the system. I believe everything's connected. Oh, got some wires here. These things drive me insane. Let me just pull that out. Not supposed to see that, even though you can't see it. Go figure. I'm so used to building cases that people actually see what's inside, and this would drive me absolutely insane. So I'm going to fix that, because I don't want to change the usual way that I build systems just because you can't see what's inside. Looks pretty good. I like it. Like, again, I'm going to fix a few things. Maybe hide that white wire. Again, it doesn't really matter. But you want good airflow, folks. So when you're building a system, even though, well, forget even though, irrespective of what you're doing, you want good airflow. A card like this, X570 Red Devil, If you're using it full tilt with using it, let's say rendering in DaVinci Resolve or playing games, none of which will be done on this system as far as I know. I might do some DaVinci Resolve. It will be running Linux, by the way. You do want some decent airflow. Now, this case is not known for the best airflow. Let me just put that out there right now. Once again, the Thermaltake H17 and H18 are not really known for the best airflow. It would be great if the front cover had that Meshify complete mesh treatment, but it doesn't. All you have is these very restrictive air intakes over here. And that was known prior to me even purchasing the case. I'm not going to get into an argument of negative versus positive air pressure and the whole 9 yards. Just to say that the system, as it's set up right now, looks pretty good. Next segment, I'm going to boot this thing up, and let's see if everything works. Stick around. Hello everyone, and in conclusion of this build video, a few observations. The case itself is quite nice, considering the price, which is well under $100. I believe it can be had for about under $70 actually Canadian. Shipping and everything will push it up to around $80. It's a great case. Airflow is not its forte per se, but you can get some fairly decent airflow, but don't expect miracles. If I was building a more game-oriented case or something where I was going to do rendering on a regular basis, I'd probably get something a little different. That being said, working in this case was a joy with respect to being able to tie down the cables, make everything look pretty clean. Not the cleanest I've had, but then again, it's pretty clean. I do have one caveat, and that is the video card, as mentioned, was purchased on the used market. And while it is functional, I did take it apart. I applied, got rid of the old thermal compound, put on new thermal compound, and one of the 3 fans, the one that's at this side, that basically is over the memory, it's no good. It makes a lot of noise, a lot of grinding noise. I've have to order one. Unfortunately, it's got to come from abroad, so I just took the fan out. For the time being, it shouldn't be an issue. I have the 140mm intake going right over the GPU. So hopefully that'll help me out for now. I don't foresee any issues, but then when you're buying on the used market, be prepared, folks, for issues. I didn't have a chance to test the card in advance. It was a reputable seller, and that's just the story. That being said, I did get the card for 100 Canadian dollars, which is a great price. It works fantastic otherwise, and the fan will cost me about $24, $25 shipped, so not a big deal there. Everything else works great. If you can see, I'll just rotate you around a little bit if I can. Maybe not. XMP Profile 2 came out, and the RAM is running at 3600 megahertz. I will have to give a follow-up video or comments based on the stability of the system. The next thing to do, other than ordering the fan, which has already been done, is to get Linux installed. I'm tossing up between MX Linux and Gyro. Probably MX Linux will go onto this case. Onto the system, I should say. And all in all, a great build. The anti-RGB, anti-flash build. Just set up and go. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. If you want something else done, I can't do a lot of build videos as all of them are coming out of my pocket. And given the conditions of the world these days, I don't have a lot of builds for clients going on. But I will try to bring you content such as this as often as I can. Thanks again for watching, and it works really great. You can see all in the description down below. I will have listed the full component list, and it took about 2 hours to build. Not that long. I didn't go really fast. I took my time, and cable management always takes a little bit longer. You can see the pictures of it. They'll be posted in the video of what I've done. All in all, really like it. It's going to work well for its intended purpose, and it was a pleasure to build in. So, take care, everybody, and thanks again.